Well, welcome in. Happy Wednesday, January the 2nd, 2019. Can you believe it? It is here, and I hope that your New Year's was a pleasant one, and let's make 2019 a very profitable year. So thank you so very much for spending some time with us here today. We're excited to kick off 2019 the right way with our good friend Tony George from Doc Sports. Doc Sports, of course, since 1971 has been the leader in sports handicapping information in the industry. Tony is a great guy. He joins us every Wednesday here on the show, and we could not be more excited to have a chance to be able to talk to him today and get his thoughts on what he witnessed over the weekend in college football, as well as what does he think coming up in the national championship game, NFL playoffs, college hoops, NBA. Tony has a plethora of information that he wants to share with us, so we're looking really forward to being able to chat with him here in just a couple of minutes. Want to thank very much our friends at uwager.eu, starting off 2019 the right way. It is not only where America bets, it's where this show bets. If you guys haven't done so already, make sure you guys check out uwager. Get yourself open an account today. Some of the best lines, some of the best pricing, and the best customer service across the board for an offshore book. Nobody competes like uwager.eu. We'll get you all sorts of information here as we move along through the program on how you can get all sorts of sign-up bonuses and all that good stuff. But if you're not at least tailing uwager, you should be doing that right now. uwager.eu. Also want to thank our friends at itickethub.com, the single best place for you to get on the secondary market those tickets to any sporting event, concert, the dude around the block's birthday party. If they sell tickets to it, nobody is better and more reasonable than itickethub.com. Our friends at Miami Acura, where if you're going to start the new year on a new automobile or even a certified pre-owned car, Miami Acura is the place to go. And, of course, Good Greek Moving and Storage. If you guys need a mover, and I don't care if you're moving up 2 flights of stairs, Good Greek Moving and Storage in Florida, definitely the place to go to. Star Greek on your cell phone. The number at the bottom of the screen, 855-983-2255. That is how you participate in the show. You can reach us, and those of you that are joining us as we stream live across all 5 platforms, that being Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. We welcome you guys in. Happy Wednesday. Big night in college hoops, big night in the NBA, and of course, we're gearing up for the first week in the NFL playoffs. We will get to that. Our friends at trendybets.com have another free play of the day coming your way. We'll give you that. But of course, we're looking forward to talking to our main man, Tony George from Doc Sports. And I don't know, guys, if you haven't been to Doc Sports yet, I don't know what you guys are waiting for. Doc Sports, recognized leader and trusted name in sports handicapping since 1971. That's right, since 1971. Make sure you guys head over to DocSports.com today and get yourself set up this year to profit. Make it a profitable year with DocSports.com. Hope you have had a fantastic start to the 2019 season. I know that's going to be a lot to ask for those of you that were holding Ohio State tickets yesterday, but that's a whole nother story. But here to help us kind of sort through it all is our good friend Tony George, DocSports.com. He joins us via the Miami Acura webcam. And Tony, Happy New Year to you and yours. And I know it was a tough day yesterday, but other than that, how's your New Year been so far?
You know what? It's been good. I'm looking forward to a great 2019. Really finished real strong in 2018, which was one of my main goals. I always tell it like it is, and I had a rough regular season in college. NFL was hit and miss all year. It was just one of those years, But we finished strong down the stretch in the NFL. Had a great week 17. Had a big top play on Buffalo on Sunday. I really thought that Miami had not played hard for Gase at all down the stretch, which is why management fired him. They just couldn't get any fire in their belly, kind of like Green Bay fired McCarthy. The team just wasn't playing hard for him, and you just see he'd lost the team. I thought Gase had lost the team, so we had a nice solid one there. We did some teasers. We talked about that a couple of weeks on your show. I said at the end of the season, the NFL, you want to be looking to manipulate some lines and get some line value. And we teased a couple of games down and did real Philadelphia and Baltimore there. The bowl games, 13-4 headed into yesterday. And we took Ohio State as our top play. We'd had 3 6-unit plays. We had some big games. We faded a couple of MAC teams. We had a big, huge play on Army. Getting all over Houston, a total mismatch there. Had really done well. Had a nice size play on Virginia the day before. Thought they shouldn't have been an underdog in that game at all. They won that straight up, and the other team never scored. But that Ohio State game is a perfect example of Urban Meyer doing his Andy Reid impression. Let's just get up. Let's just sit on a lead. Let's not coach in the second half. Schiano did a terrible job as defensive coordinator in that game. Boy, I tell you, Washington had open wide receivers, and they were dropping balls like crazy. Yep. Bear in mind, that was pretty much their MO all year. They even bitched Browning at one point during the season. He was playing so shitty. And then you turn around and you put him back in there, and you got receivers that are dropping balls left and right. Those receivers were wide open by 5 or 6 yards. If they had caught those balls, they could have ran for 20 or 30 yards. Washington would have won. You're snapping the ball on offense with 5 minutes left, with 20 seconds left on the clock.
Yep.
I mean, that is just flat-out coaching. And they just laid down and didn't play in the second half. I got to take the bullet because I made the call. I had 8 dimes on this game. I'd won a ton of money in the bowl game, especially undefeated with top plays. I was on the house's money in, over 5-figure range, and so we pulled the trigger on that. And, I never celebrate a halftime, but they were just hot knife on butter through that defense by early mid-second quarter. And good riddance to Urban Meyer. You never make excuses when you make big losses, but that one there, if you ever could just say, look, you can't handicap a team laying down like that in the second half like they did, and just colossal coaching blunders. I mean, when you got to kill, you were falling forward for 6 yards of carry in the first half, and you come out when you try to kill the clock when you got a 20-some point lead, and you open up throwing the ball on first down. They couldn't stop you. You know, and
how many times have we seen it, Tony? You get these coaches, and we've seen it time in and time again. We get these guys who don't play to win; they play not to lose, and that's exactly what Ohio State was doing in that second half. They were just trying not to lose, and instead of if that was Nick Saban, I can promise you that would have never happened in that situation.
Oh, Nick Saban, Tom Osborne, Steve Spurrier. Lou Holtz, you go down the list, they're going to put Urban Meyer in this, circle ring of excellence. Paul Bear Bryant, all these great coaches, and Urban Meyer's this great coach. Great coaches don't sit on freaking leads. I know this is a family show. I could drop about 30 F-bombs right now. I'm not going to do it. But even when that game was in 6 minutes into the third quarter, I was sitting here with my son and my wife, and I said, we're in trouble. Oh, no, you got a 25-point lead. No, you could tell right then what the game plan was going in. Let's just cream puff it. They can't do jack crap. Well, you know what? Chris Peterson is a great football coach. His team does not quit playing. Urban Meyer, if you look at that game, he had the better team, and he got out-coached. Even when they had 11-point lead, they were sitting there out-yarded at 389 to 350, and they just kept coming. They kept bringing it, and they put them in there and do bonehead calls. But, you can bitch and moan about it all day long, and I threw a fit a little bit. I usually don't get emotional because I'm just immune to it at this point, because they're just every time in this market, in this business, you say, well, I've seen it all. I've seen it all. There's 4 or 5 more every weekend where you're just going, what just happened? And it was just one of those games where, you had a total mismatch. I thought that I had about an 11-point overlay. The Pac-12 did not look all that strong in the bowls. I thought it was a weak conference this year. I really did. I even thought with Washington representing that conference is probably the best team. They did not play all that well at times during this year. They won a lot of games ugly. They couldn't put people away. They couldn't close out games, which is why I thought, well, if Ohio State gets up a little bit, lets them score a little bit, I don't think, Washington's going to be able to come back on them. And, of course, I didn't know the gap would be quite that much, but you just don't blow 18, 25-point leads in a game like that. And, like I said, another 3 minutes on the clock, Joe, Washington would have won that game.
It's a shame it took him as long as it did to be able to, Chris Peterson, to be able to make the adjustments, because he didn't make any adjustments in the first half. But Washington, the last 2 games, they had 1 touchdown, I think, in the last 2 games, or some obnoxious number. It was 10-3 against Utah, and the Washington State game was even worse than that. So the idea that they would have been able to come back from 28-3 was so far-fetched that nobody's it. And yet Vegas took so much late action that people actually did get the game at -4.5, if you can believe it there, before I think it settled right around 5.5 before kickoff. But Vegas was exposed. If Ohio State covers that game, sportsbooks are exposed yesterday. Yeah,
there was like a $630,000 turnaround at MGM on it. William Hill had a big 6-figure turnaround on it out here. I looked briefly this morning, and every time I wanted to kind of dig into it a little bit, I just got more pissed off. I just said, you know what? You got to let it go. There's more on deck. That's the one thing about doing what I do for a living, is whether it's good or whether it's bad. You don't want to bitch too much, and you don't want to brag too much, because your plate is completely full the next day. And, over at Docs, we have a large client base. They expect you to have your A game the next day. And, I got about 3 hours sleep last night, and I addressed it. I do a daily video over at YouTube, as we mentioned before. And I kind of recap, the day before quickly, and then say, here's what we got on deck, and then here's your daily free play. And I did address it. I approached it, and I was upset when I did. I wear my heart on my sleeve, but, people know where I'm coming from. I'm an honest guy in this business, which is hard to find. Win, lose, or draw, you tell it like it is. I don't want to have to worry about what yesterday's story was. But it was a bad beat. It was just a bad beat. And, I told
good plays, Tony. It was a good play. I mean, you weren't alone in that. Yeah. Sometimes good plays, they just don't happen for whatever reason. That's what the variance is all about. But, I mean, you could look at it a million times. You'd have came to the same conclusion every time. Ohio State was the play there by far in anybody's book. But who can tell that all of a sudden, Urban Meyer and the rest of the coaching staff is going to take the second half off? There's no way you can account for that.
Nah, especially you mentioned it earlier. Washington had scored 1 touchdown in their last 10 quarters. And they couldn't do jack crap in the first half, and for one reason or another, they let off the gas, and it cost a lot of people a lot of money. Yeah. I know Scott Van Pelt opened up his segment last night on Sports Center with the highlights going, you talk about bad beats. We got one coming.
Starting off 2019 with a bad beat. And then, let's not forget, too, it followed up another underdog, straight-up winner, Texas, taking care of business against Georgia, which is, had a lot of other people going, Georgia, what are you doing? But this idea that the SEC, if it's not a championship game or if it's not a playoff, they don't care. Is that a false narrative in your mind, Tony, in these bowl games?
I think it is. I think that a little bit of it is complacency on their part. They just think that they're better than everybody else. And I took what I did in that game was one of my video free plays yesterday. I was uncomfortable laying 11 or 12 in that game. I really didn't want anything. The only game I had yesterday was the only game that I was on was that top play. I wanted all my money on that game. I didn't want to spread it around. I thought that was probably the best bet I'd seen in the bowls, where there was just a talent mismatch that I thought you could expose it. But what I did was I laid the first half line with Georgia in that game. I thought 7 is manageable. And Texas is this year sluggish out of the gate. They always came on in the second half, kind of their MO. And I thought Georgia would get out there really physical and just really slam the ball at them. And Kirby Smart's a good coach. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's got a hell of a pedigree, even as an assistant and as a coordinator. And I thought, they're going to come out here and want to prove a point. You shouldn't have left us out of they kind of played like Ohio State played in the first half. Ohio State wanted to come out and say, hey, you left us out. We're a Big 5 conference champion. You snubbed us. We're just going to kick the dog piss out of these guys and show everybody wrong. I really thought that was what Georgia would do. My biggest fear was Herman, the head coach at Texas, is a damn good football coach, and he is one of the best underdog coaches in the country. This guy, when he's an underdog, look the frick out.
Yep.
And I thought
23-2 now in that position. 23-2 when his team is an underdog there. He's hot garbage when he's a favorite, but he's just been absolutely money. 23-2 Texas and Tom Herman in his career in that underdog spot. So a lot of head scratching going on, but that leads us, of course. There's one final game here, Tony, coming up. National championship. The line opened up somewhere around 6.5 for Alabama. They got some money coming in now. It's now -5 in this game. Just because it's a national championship game, I think it's a good time to remind people. Doesn't mean that you have to bet it. I mean, either you feel confident about it or you don't. As you're looking at this game, Tony, how confident are you that this should be a play?
Well, I think if you can get Alabama at 5, it's a play. You're under the fall number 6. I don't want to get in the freight train in front of that freight train. That's albeit, the big argument here is that Oklahoma had no defense. They couldn't stop a really good, maybe Division II school. They had trouble with a lot of teams this year in various schemes. Army ran up a bunch of points on Oklahoma. I mean, West Virginia ran up a bunch of points. I mean, Oklahoma State, who wasn't all that good this year, ran up a bunch of points on them. So you figured Alabama was going to run some points on them, but you figured, with Murray back there, he's a very gifted, talented, special player that's just virtually unstoppable. I really thought that, that was a mismatch there. And so in the trenches, now you don't have that big of a mismatch in the trenches with Clemson. They're strong up front on the defensive side of the ball. Plays are not going to come that easy for Alabama in this game. I think it's going to be lower than the total here a little bit. I saw a 61 or something. I think you're going to – and I think Clemson's going to have some problems, mainly because their quarterback is not a mobile quarterback.
Right.
That kid likes to stand in the pocket. They could put a hell of a rush on, because I'll tell you something. Oklahoma's offensive line is no frickin' slouch. And they ran through them, and they had pressure on that kid all day long, which to me – the most impressive thing about that Oklahoma-Alabama game was the way that they manhandled that offensive line, Alabama did of Oklahoma. And I think Clemson is going to have some problems there. On the other side of the ball, it's not going to come that easy for Alabama to get around the field like they did against Oklahoma here, which leads me to, maybe a lower scoring game, if anything. But I've said this all season long, Joe, and I'm not going to go back on it now. I think Alabama's 2 touchdowns better than any team in the country. Wow. Bottom line.
Wow.
And if you can get them under a fall number of 6 and 7, less than a touchdown, and you don't take it, no, you're probably out of your mind.
There you go. He is Tony George. DocSports.com. That is where you can find him. Since 1971, guys, it doesn't get any better than DocSports.com. I mean, we are talking the amount of valuable information that you guys can find on the site.
Yeah.
And, of course, having access to Tony and his perspective and using his knowledge and the work that Tony puts in. The man has slept maybe 2 hours here in the last week or so. It's been one hell of a week, not to mention we got college hoop and conference play starting. We're going to touch base on that here in just a minute. But let's shift over to the NFL, Tony. I mean, here we go. Wild card weekend. Andrew Luck and company take care of business in Tennessee. They find themselves now in a wild card spot on their way to a team that they know pretty well, the Houston Texans. I mean, how good a shot do you give this Indianapolis team? Last time we talked, we said, listen, this is maybe the one team I wouldn't want to play. You still feel that way against Houston?
Yeah, you don't want to play them right now. I'll tell you, we took them last week for a video free play over there at YouTube. Again, I put that one out because I only had 2 plays the entire day. But their defense is playing well. Luck's playing well. I have a little problem with O'Brien in the postseason. Their coach at the Colts last year obviously went all the way to the Super Bowl under Doug Peterson. There's a lot of variables in this game here. The total's at 48.5. I think it's going to be a little bit more of a defensive struggle than a lot of people think. Both these guys, I was looking here at some stats. The last game, 24-21 in Houston. You're probably looking at something like that in this game. I think it's really going to be a nip and tuck battle here. I think points are going to be a premium in that game. I really think it's a coin flip game, but I'll give you a piece of advice, everybody listening. I was mentored by a guy by the name of Mike Lee out here, which was a legendary sports handicapper in Las Vegas. He's written a lot of books. He passed away in 2006. He was a friend of mine when I was just a greenhorn coming up in the ranks here back in the mid to early 90s and early 2000s. I would go to him. He was a wealth of information. He just took me under his wing. And one thing he told me about the NFL postseason, which rings true pretty much to this day, is some of the best advice I've ever gotten. He said, when it comes to the NFL postseason, you take a look at the game. Forget the spread. Forget the spread. Forget the total. Forget the spread. You take a look at those games. You figure out who's the best, who's going to win the game. That's who you go with, whether they're laying 6, laying 2, or catching 4. He goes, whoever you think the best team is, the best chance of winning. And at this point in time, we all know who the better team is. You're dealing with the spread. You're juggling that in your mind. Well, could Team A beat Team B by 4 points, even though they're on the road and this, that, and the other? And you get to look at these games where you can't see the forest because of all the trees. The bottom line is you take the best team and you bet them. And whatever the spread is, that's what you roll with. Mark my words, if you look at these games, here in the postseason this week and next weekend, There's going to be 8 games. I'll guarantee you that any novice that has got a cursory knowledge of football can look at those games and go, well, New England's going to beat them. Kansas City's going to beat them. San Diego's going to beat them. Those teams are going to win and they're going to cover more times than they're not combined. And that's kind of how I look at these games. That being said, the reason I bring all that up is this game here, you can't look at it and say, this team's just clearly better than that when they're going to win. I mean, this is a coin flip football game. The best thing you do with this game is put the underdog in a teaser, get them through 3, get them through 6, get them through 7, get them through those key numbers, and you'll probably find yourself a winner.
Great advice. He is Tony George, DocSports.com. Make sure that you guys are following him at TGeorgeSports on Twitter. Great Twitter follow as well. And you catch him on Twitter, you'll get a link to his YouTube videos as well. He posts these every day, guys. He's pulling out a game for you, spreading the knowledge, which is what it is all about. The more knowledge you have, the better chance you have of being a profitable sports investor, which is the whole purpose of all of this. Now, Tony, I did pull up for you here, and I'm wondering if you had a few extra bucks that you wanted to throw down. All right, they came out with the updated Super Bowl odds, and I'll give you the bottom half. We got Texans plus 2,400, Seahawks plus 2,700, Colts plus 28, Eagles plus 3,000. Hell, even the Chargers are plus 1,500. The Ravens are plus 1,300. Any of those 4-digit teams you think is worth maybe taking a flyer on in the for the Super Bowl?
Boy, if I had to, maybe the Chargers.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I think they got a good team. Let's get Gordon healthy.
Yeah.
They got a good defense. They got a great secondary. They've got a quarterback that never gives up. I think they're well coached. I think they're the dark horse in the AFC. And if you want to throw a dart at the board on a long shot, I think the Chargers be the team to do it with. And they got a tough test this week. Don't have no illusions, But, at the end of the season like this, you take a look at that, it's kind of like any other sport. You look at – I'll give you an example. The NBA has a lot of home series where, the Clippers will play L.A. one night and 2 nights later at home, and the next night, they're going to L.A. to play back-to-back. You always want to fade the team that won the first game. It's tough to beat this especially is true when it's 2 really good teams. It's tough to beat a good team twice in a row in 3 weeks. It just really is, they went in there and took care of business here recently. The Ravens did. And I think it's going to be, and they had to just play a full 4 quarters to win their last game. Cleveland gave them everything they wanted and then some. Cleveland's a lot better football team than people give them credit for. They have a lot of talent. They get the right coach in there. They're going to be extremely dangerous next year. They could win that division next year. That's how much talent they have, and Mayfield's no joke. But they had to exhaust themselves to win that game. And I'll tell you, I think San Diego's one of those teams that's going to come in there with a chip on their shoulder, and they might get it done. Definitely a live dog.
Yeah, definitely a live dog, and who knows, at 1,500, it's not a bad throw something against the wall and see what sticks there for sure with San Diego and Phillip. They certainly have the quarterback in Phillip Rivers. He is Tony George, DocSports.com. That is where you guys can find him. That's also where you can get some of the best up-to-date knowledge across the board when it comes to sports investing. It is a wealth of information. DocSports.com. If you guys haven't been there, make sure that you get there. Is the Nick Foles era about to come to an end, do you think? I mean, it's a great story, Tony. It's been a great story. I'm happy for the guy. He's a good guy. Probably not going to be in Philadelphia next year, but I don't. Does it end? Do they have enough horses to compete here?
If you're going to again, who's the best team? Bears. That's the bottom line. Who's at home? Bears. Who's got the best defense? Bears. Who runs the ball better? Bears. Who's got the most experienced head coach? Bears. Who's got more depth?
Yep.
Well, maybe Philadelphia's got some depth, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got basically 5 of your 6 indicators are pointing towards the Bears here. And the thing that concerns me most about they're really downplaying this injury to Nick Foles. I played a little college football in Division II that's how I put myself through college. Bottom line is, and I played quarterback in high school, and I've had banged up ribs, and I will tell you, there's nothing more painful than a banged up rib. Sore knee, sore shoulder, sore elbow. Get a shot of cortisone in there, you're good to go for a game. Sore ribs, there's no getting around it. And with that defense and the way they're going to attack him, and the way that sometimes Philadelphia has these issues, establishing the run where they can work play action off of it, where teams, can't just tee off on them. They don't have that ability a lot. That's where Chicago's going to shine here. And I think this is probably Nick Foles' last game, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see a double-digit win here by the Bears.
Yep. Well, there you go. Better team. Who is it? Straight up in the location. Straight up. How do you go wrong with what the Bears are doing right now? Tony George joining us. All right, Tony. You had mentioned earlier. It's in addition to the NFL, we got the national championship game coming up. You are inundated right now with what's going on in college hoops. I mean, this is the start really today, tonight. Kansas starting in the Big 12, and you got a bunch of ACC matchups. It's conference play now, and it's put up or shut up time for a lot of schools and a lot of programs here. So talk to us a little bit, if you could, about this time of year, college hoops, and how you approach this.
Well, first of all, there's a massive amount of games tonight. And usually what you do, even though we went through the non-conference schedule, there's still a lot of teams that you don't have a clear identity of who they are yet, because they haven't played in conference action. They played a lot of weak sisters. They played in a bunch of games in Hawaii or the Bahamas or Mexico City or Timbuktu, Anchorage, Alaska, wherever they played. You still don't know what their identity is coming in. You have to take a conference like the Big Ten. You got there's not a team in the Big Ten with a losing record right now. The worst team, 6-6,
wow, or
whatever it is. So at the end of the day, you really don't know. You got Nebraska, Maryland. It's a pick-em ball game. It looks like, Nebraska's just been tearing it up. Their defense, and this, that. You take a look at Kansas, Oklahoma. Oklahoma has the ability to score. They're laying 8 because they're Kansas. There's a premium number on them. Kansas has struggled all freaking year long, all year. So they don't have a clear identity. Can Duke just blow anybody out at will if they want to? Yeah. Can Virginia, do what they do like they did last year? Yeah. But at the end of the day, the best thing to do, what I do, less is more. I have 3 plays tonight. And what I do is I specialize in 4 conferences, the Big 12, the Big 10, the mobile. 65 to 75% of my plays come out of those conferences.
Wow.
It's not that I don't look at the rest of the board, because I do. But I have a finite number of teams I need to worry about when there's 90-some games on a weekend. I know the key matchups in these specialty conferences that I want to go after, and I look at it for light value. And that's why 2 of my 3 plays tonight are out of the Bow Valley. As you do that, the longer you do that and then stay, and study, the sports beat writers, their Twitters, their blogs for each team in the Bow Valley, I read them every day. And you know what's going on? I know a few of these writers. I call them for my radio days, that sort of thing. You constantly follow those. You get to know those conferences more intimately. And then you kind of find some line value, especially out of the gate, where odds makers maybe they have to concentrate on 100, 125, or 130, or 140 teams that day, where I got to concentrate on 20. So I'm going to be a little bit sharper with the power number against the Las Vegas spread to develop an overlay against the spread where I see there's a clear overlay where there's some line value, and I found that here out of the gate tonight.
I'm wondering, Tony, and by the way, you guys can get all of Tony's his numbers and everything that he likes by visiting him at DocSports.com. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at TGeorgeSports. You'll get not only his free plays from his YouTube videos, but over at Doc Sports, they've got something for everyone. There is a level for everybody, and they've got a guaranteed situation there. You go there to DocSports.com, and they're going to guarantee you basically you're going to get your money's worth forth. I mean, that's about it, Tony, right? I mean, nobody does it like Docs does.
Right. No, they it's old school customer service. Founded in '71 by Maury Mosman up in Sauk City, Wisconsin. That's the home office. Although the customer service and the owner Wade down, it's all based in here in Las Vegas. They have a pure profit guarantee. So if you buy a card and it's got 9 units on it, 3 plays, and say you had a negative 4-unit situation on that card, it went 1 and 2. What they're going to do is they're going to park those credits back in your account to use again tomorrow. They're going to give you that capper or another capper to go back and get the plays the next day, so you're in a positive unit situation. And it's all transparent. Anybody that's a member has access to spreadsheets that we have to fill out every day and turn in. So what'd you do yesterday? How many units was the game? Blah, blah, blah. Did you win or did you lose? What was the positive, negative units? And it's every day for the entire season. So it's 100% transparent. 5 or 6 handicappers over there, Joe. I know Rafael Esparza, Alan Harris, Alan Eastman, a couple other guys over there. Jason Sharp, I believe, were all odds makers here in Vegas. They worked at MGM Properties, Treasure Island. These guys they were on the other side of the counter for years, and they're handicappers now. And so and plus 90% of the information over there is free. Yeah. There's tons of articles, just not free picks. But I'm like, here's how to bet this. Here's an early week line report. Here's a look ahead to Big 12 action on Saturday. These are out, keep an eye on this injury. Keep an eye on that injury. Yeah. See if this guy plays. So, you got a bunch of stuff there that you don't find in a lot of other handicapping websites. And the customer service there, you pick up an 800 number, you're talking to a customer service rep. Not half the time you're talking to the owner of the company. There is no salesman there. It's just you call, hey, it's Doc Sports, what do you need? Hey, I had Tony George yesterday. He sucked on Ohio State. I'm down 7 units. I want to get his stuff till he wins me back that money. They're going to say, okay, sir, let me look up your member number, park your credit in there, and then they hang up the phone. That doesn't happen in this marketplace very often, if at all anymore. That's still the way that we operate.
Love it. DocSports.com. Make sure that you're visiting Tony's page there. Again, it's DocSports.com. All the information you could possibly need to make it a profitable 2019 in one place, under one roof, DocSports.com. And Tony, you mentioned focusing on a couple of key conferences there and getting as much information as you can in college hoops. I'm wondering if you have noticed the market gets a little soft between the first half lines and the second half lines. So the game lines, are the markets adjusting at the halves here for the second half, do you find, in college hoops, or is there some value possibly that can be found there?
There's still pardon me, there's still some value there. I don't know how much longer it's going to maintain. The bulk of the public does not have access to that. A lot of offshores don't. They'll offer a halftime line, but they won't offer, in-game wagering. And the average Joe is too lazy mid-game to go online and look what the halftime line is. Out here in Vegas, you got one of these. You got a smartphone, and you pull up the app, and it's 100% legal to do it here. And a lot of times, if I'm losing my ass, I had a little bit of money on Texas, Georgia last night. I just came back and I go, it's going to be more of the same. Thank God I didn't do that in the Ohio State game. But in the Georgia game, I thought Texas is just going to continue to drop the hammer on them. And they came back a little late, but I made a few little subtle wagers on the total, this, that, and the other. A lot of times you'll find games where they're just way out of control. And you're able to bet a halftime line where you value. And, the one thing about it is I've been doing this 26 years, Joe. So I've seen so many scenarios that some 25-year-old kid hasn't seen that's wanting to bet football. But I've seen I go, well, that's not going to continue, or that's going to be more of the same based on experience. Yep. And I'm able to bail out basically a crappy day, with halftime lines or in-game wagering or fourth quarter totals or whatever it might be, based on knowledge and what I've seen in the past.
Right.
And a lot of people, because gambling isn't legal across the country, you don't have some of the technology at your fingertips that people out here in Las Vegas have now. You know, there's a lot of sharps out here. A lot of them will just wait till halftime and then start betting, you know, versus bet the whole game. So at the end of the day, I don't think that the odds makers have fully caught up with the technology and the knowledge level of some of their sharper players, but the general public just really hasn't been able to do that and catch on. But sooner or later, if the house thinks you have an edge, they're going to figure out how to get it back in a hurry. So right now, I wouldn't say it's the wild, wild west with it, but I would say there's still an advantage to the smart player where they're going to close that gap here in a year or two.
All right, well, that's that's the whole purpose of why you need guys like Tony in your corner and DocSports.com, because the more knowledge you have, the better chance you have of making a smart sports investing decision, and that is what it is all about. So make sure you guys are following Tony on Twitter at TGeorgeSports. Also, make sure you head over to Doc Sports today. Get yourself signed up. You'll have access to Tony and a whole roster full of guys that have been doing this for more than a hot minute. So you put all of that together. You got the right people working in your corner for you. They have the 40, 50, 60 hours a week to be able to invest in the experience to do it while you still have a job and a family and kids, but there's no reason why you can't profit from their knowledge, Tony, and that's ultimately what it's all about, is using the knowledge that you guys bring to the table in a situation that will allow you to make a better, smarter sports decision.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of information that we alluded to earlier over there that you can use to help yourself make better decisions. Really, it really is. They got good matchup programs over there. You can utilize their free live odds, live scores, all the articles. And I'm not the only guy. There's like 4 or 5 guys. You know, there's some heavyweights over there. Vernon Croy's been around forever if you love hockey. He's from Canada. He does a video every day. Scott Spreitzer, need I say more? The guy's been on television, you know, back in the 80s and 90s, and is one of the most knowledgeable guys around. He's a fixture out here in Las Vegas. He's a legend in the industry. He does videos over there. Myself, I've been around 26 years. You know, and Rafael Esparza, a guy that spent 7-8 years behind the counter, and he helped set a lot of lines, especially for exotics, for a lot of these bookies. He's in there, these offshore books. He's their employee and sets odds for stuff. And once he sets the odds, he writes articles about it and tells people how he arrived at his decisions. I mean, hell, I'm betting them, you know. So, you know, there's some great stuff over there, and not everybody is, you know, the worst thing you can do is call 1-800-CAN'T-LOSE.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing anybody, because these guys, you know, you read these little articles in the back of USA Today or some rag or some website. You got to call for the super lock of the millennium, whatever. Those are the numbers those are the guys that are clicking your phone number, and they're sicking you on their silver tongue devils, and they're going to try and sell you up the freaking river. We're trying to sell guaranteed
100-unit play, guy.
Yeah. Information so strong, the owner personally has $100,000 on it. But for you today, it's $1.50. What's it going to be? Visa, MasterCard, American Express.
That is not what you're going to get at Doc Sports, guys.
No.
So do yourself a favor. Tony, you said you got a 3 plays tonight in college hoops. They can still head over to DocSports.com and get access to those, correct?
Yes, they can. And we got some plays in the NBA, you know. Just want to touch on that real quick. My NBA's been, I think, 29-18 run in my college basketball. I forgot it's so like 25-13, I think. You know, in the little over 60% in both, which is a great number. But the NBA right now, you're starting to find out when you talk about college teams where you're worried about their identity.
Yeah.
In the NBA, a lot of teams have established their identity. You know, and I wouldn't say it's easy pickings, but it's a lot easier than it was. You know, the NBA every year, Joe, is same faces, different places. So it takes a while for these guys to gel and figure out how they're going to mesh with a certain team. And, you know, LeBron, you know, is a good example at LA. It took him a while, you know, this, that, and the other. There's a lot of, you know, Kawhi Leonard going up to Toronto. so these great players are going different places, and then, how's Toronto going to do, and then how's San Antonio going to do without him, which they basically did last year anyway. But, at the end of the day, the NBA right now, there's some great opportunity in the NBA right now, and you got to watch the injuries in the NBA a little bit. But the one thing about the NBA, you're getting long into the tooth where the scheduling spots are so important. You handicap the scheduling spots in the NBA, that's probably 50% of my handicapping into a game.
Wow.
Was those scheduling spots. So, you have certainty, there's all kinds. I have a betting NBA 101 over on the YouTube page. My YouTube page, just type in Tony George / Sports. I'm not selling anything, but it's called a Gambling 101 series, and there's a bunch of how-to tutorials, and one of them is handicapping the NBA. And I talk about how to handicap those scheduling spots. And the nice thing about the NBA is with 80-some games, Joe, it's cyclical, which means there's so many games that teams get into cycles, good cycles or bad cycles. And so you start handicapping those last 5-game averages and throwing out the season averages, because the NBA is all about right here, right now. And we're finding a lot of advantages in the NBA right now with those cycles and meeting with great success. And, I finished 9th in the country last year in the NBA in a respected monitor. And this year we're like at 62 or 63%. Where, you have those nights where, Cleveland jumps up and beats Toronto at Toronto by 14 when they were catching 11. I mean, that is the NBA, because anybody in a uniform in the NBA is a freaking baller, and everybody needs to know that. Yep. So if a team takes a night off, yeah, sure, Sacramento can beat Golden State by 11. But if they take a night off, but at the end of the day, there's some real advantages in pro hoops right now. So, get over there and check out some of the action we got over there.
Yep, and it all comes down to, again, Tony's got the time to be able to dive into those analytics and statistics and scheduling and everything else and utilize Tony. I mean, that's the whole point, is to be able to utilize these pros so, you can actually have a life, but, you want to be able to make some money, you want to be able to profit, you want to have a good time, but you don't have 90 hours a week to be able to utilize and dive in like these guys do. So head over to DocSports.com. Tony's got some great value picks tonight, college basketball, also NBA. You can pick his brain. Just go to DocSports.com. Get yourself signed up right now. You can't go wrong. Since 1971, these guys have been the leader in the industry. So at the very least, go read up and get yourself a whole bunch of free information at DocSports.com. He is Tony George. Make sure you follow him, too, on Twitter, at TGeorgeSports. Check out his YouTube page while you're there, T. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and by the way, I was going to tell your listeners out there, especially you guys tuned in to Joe, got some great handicappers on his series here. When you go to DocSports.com and you've never been a member, when you open up a new account, you get a free $60 parked in your account.
Wow,
which is a hell of a deal. What we do is, any new member, we park $60 in your account. I think daily packages over there in any sport are $30 for any guy, no matter the size of the play or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, if that card was to lose, even though you use the free 30 of the $60 we gave you, we still park the credit back in your account with the pure profit guarantee. So you're getting a double whammy on our dollar.
Wow.
So if you're a new member, you get a free, open up a new account, you get a free $60 in there to try it out. If nothing else, it's a win-win for everybody. And there's, like I said, there's no smoke and mirrors. We're not blowing any smoke up your ass. It's real handicappers putting in 70, 80 hours a week and stressing out 1,000 hours a week, trying to bring home the bacon all covered in grease. So, but that free $60 for any new member is no joke. And I think when you go to the website, Joe, maybe you can stick a link on your Twitter or something, yes. But I think it's the upper left-hand corner of the website. When you go on the main page, it says free $60 trial.
Can't go wrong.
And I don't even think you need to enter in a credit card to get it. You just put in your name, email address, and a couple other things to be a member, and it assigns you a member number and parks the money in your account automatically.
Do it now. Head over to DocSports.com, get signed up, get the free sign-up bonus, and then use it to be able to get Tony's picks tonight, college hoops, NBA, and moving forward. I mean, this time of year, it's going to be all about the NBA. It's going to be all about college hoops. And before we get into baseball season, plenty of opportunity for you to make it a profitable first quarter of 2019. Make DocSports.com a partner of yours, because there's a lot of people who have been doing it since 1971. He is Tony George. He joins us here every Wednesday on the show. Make sure you guys are following him on Twitter. Tony, thank you, brother, for your time. Good luck tonight. Enjoy the week, and then we'll talk again next Wednesday.
You betcha, Joe. Thanks for having me on. Good luck, everybody.
Feeling 10 feet tall, like a baller dog. I'm talking stronger living, I'm talking stronger soul. We taking our position and never letting go.
Want to thank Tony George very much for hanging out with us here on a Wednesday. Plenty of great information there. Plenty of great information at DocSports.com. If you guys have not done so, go check it out. They're going to park a whole, $60 in your account. You get a money-back guarantee, and you're dealing with some of the best from around the country there on that roster. So we love Doc Sports. Make sure that you guys are checking them out. Make sure you're tailing Tony on his Twitter page at TGeorgeSports, all right? And he joins us each and every Wednesday. He'll be back again next Wednesday. We are excited about that. So plenty still to get to coming up. We've got our friends at TrendyBets.com. We got a free play there. We've got the latest on what's going on in the coaching carousel. All sorts of great things getting ready to come your way and get you ready just before tip-off here about 7 o'clock. Most of the college hoop games and the NBA games are getting ready to go. So on behalf of Doc Sports, UWager.eu, Miami Acura, Good Greek Moving and Storage, and iTicketHub.com, we want to thank you guys very much for making us a part of your day. Make sure that you subscribe to our channels, guys. Like the videos. We've got all sorts of big announcements coming by the end of the week. Once I get the okay to be able to pass along that information to you, I will do so. We got big things going on in 2019, and you guys are going to get to be a part of it. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. So do us a favor and go ahead, like us and retweet us, subscribe, and follow us on our channels, all 5 platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Periscope, and Facebook. We're here every Monday through Friday for you guys, so we're looking forward to it. It's going to be one hell of a 2019, but do yourself a favor. Make sure you guys head over to DocSports.com. That's DocSports.com. We'll have more for you coming up. Make sure you guys are subscribing to the page here. Make sure you guys are following us and tailing us on Twitter, because we got a lot more coming up. That's coming up next. It's the Joe Raineri Show.